All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Have you ever imagined watching your country's currency just collapse right in front of your eyes? Well, today we're looking at a fascinating, complex, and frankly staggering economic phenomenon unfolding in Nigeria right now. We're going to break down how a crippling inflation crisis has sparked this massive cryptocurrency boom across the entire nation. For millions of people, this isn't just some tech trend or a hobby. It is literally driven by desperate everyday financial survival. But as we'll see, it's also an ecosystem packed with dangerous, life-ruining scams.
To really get this, let's start with a guy named Ahmed Youm. He's a 28-year-old crypto star, and people essentially view him as the country's crypto king. Ahmed actually made his first $1 million by the time he was just 25. He started out doing odd jobs, hauling blocks and cement on construction sites, and trading all alone from his student bedroom. Now, he preaches this fiercely individualistic gospel of success to his 3 million social media followers, and his core philosophy is right here. Leverage is beautiful. He teaches his followers that using borrowed capital is the ultimate way to multiply your money.
But the contrast here is just incredibly jarring. On one side, you have this wild influencer lifestyle Ahmed shows off online. We're talking bodyguards, private jets, luxury cars, designer watches. And on the other side, the reality of his students. People are packing into his masterclasses, paying a $300 fee just to learn his secrets. To put that into perspective, that is 6 times Nigeria's monthly minimum wage. Office workers, retirees, and unemployed students are paying this astronomical amount because they're desperately betting it's their fastest ticket out of poverty.
Which brings us to part 1 of our explainer, the inflation catalyst.
So why are roughly 1 in 10 Nigerians, that's over 20 million people, flocking to this digital market? Well, you've got to look at the macroeconomic disaster pushing them there. Since 2016, the national currency, the Naira, has lost nearly 3/4 of its value. 3/4. And by 2024, runaway inflation hit close to 35%. Just imagine watching your life savings evaporate that fast. Millions suddenly realized they needed a completely new way to preserve whatever wealth they had left.
So for a huge chunk of those 20 million users, crypto isn't some speculative gamble so they can buy a private jet. Not at all. It's a shield. Stablecoins like USDT, which are pegged directly to the US dollar, have become an absolute necessity. People are using them as a reliable alternative for everyday payments, paying school fees, and making overseas transfers. Basically, it completely cuts out a traditional banking system that people view as expensive and unreliable.
Moving on to part 2, chasing generational wealth.
Now, this intense economic pressure is uniquely devastating to Nigeria's youth. Take a guy named Emotion, for instance. He's a university graduate living on the outskirts of Lagos with no formal job. His mindset totally captures the vibe right now. A 9-to-5 will only give you feeding money, but you cannot build generational wealth with it. When a traditional university degree just leads to driving Ubers or riding bikes to make ends meet, young people start viewing cryptocurrency as their only real ladder to success.
And you can see why the appeal is undeniable for young folks like Motion. You get to completely bypass widespread unemployment, and you can literally enter the space with $0 in upfront capital. The upside? Well, Motion himself actually made $8,000 on a single trade. $8 grand. That one trade was enough for him to buy a car and start building a home. To these young traders, when the traditional economy offers them absolutely nothing, crypto is literally viewed as a way to print food money.
But this sheer desperation has spawned a massive and sometimes crazy secondary industry. Take Fortune Beach, an influencer who splits his time between Dubai, Singapore, and Nigeria. He charges his followers a staggering $1,000 for a lifetime subscription to his platform. Think about that amount for a second in an economy struggling with 35% inflation. Yet nearly 3,000 people pay this just to copy his exact trades in real time. The hunger to mirror the wealthy is just insatiable.
But there's a flip side to all of this, which brings us to part 3, the dark side of crypto.
Because behind all those flashy influencers and huge promises lies a highly dangerous, totally unregulated Wild West. We have to look at the real human cost here. Meet Razak Kadri. Convinced by a deeply trusted friend, Razak poured a devastating 1.8 million Naira into a new crypto pitch, truly believing he was securing his family's future.
The pitch? He was promised a massive, guaranteed return in just 21 days. So he eagerly waits, but a month later, he tries to check his funds and the app simply won't open. It locked him out completely. That was the horrifying moment he realized it was all a scam, and his entire life savings had vanished into a total loss.
Cyber investigators in Nigeria, like an analyst named Shiom and her colleague Missy, deal with this exact heartbreak every single day.
They spend hours doing complex blockchain forensics to track down what's known in the industry as a rug pull. It's this brutal tactic where scammers artificially inflate a token, lure in desperate investors, and then intentionally drain all the liquidity out of it. Victims log in to find the money they desperately needed to survive is just gone forever.
So what's being done about it? That's part 4, taming the Wild West.
With a total lack of regulation allowing bad actors to just openly exploit vulnerable citizens, fraud absolutely exploded. Driven entirely by necessity, the government finally had to step in. In 2025, they passed a landmark law formally recognizing crypto as a financial asset. And this was huge because it gave law enforcement the real institutional oversight tools, the legal backing they desperately needed to actually police the market, track vanished funds, and start raiding these syndicates.
And the results were immediate and sweeping. Nigeria's Economic and Financial Crimes Commission launched these massive operations. In just a single raid in Lagos, they made 792 arrests. And we're not talking about low-level, petty scammers here. These rings were tied to elaborate romance frauds, massive money laundering operations, and even suspected terrorist financing.
So we arrive at this fascinating and honestly kind of terrifying duality. As investigator Shion points out, the crypto technology itself isn't inherently bad. It operates exactly like traditional money. On one hand, you have this absolute vital tool for survival, a way to pay school fees, fight 35% inflation, and bypass broken banks. But on that exact same network, you have a weapon for the corrupt, fueling terrorism, romance scams, and devastating rug pulls.
So, we want to leave you with this final thought. Born out of severe economic crisis, cryptocurrency is undeniably a lifeline for millions of Nigerians trying to build wealth. But with such extreme volatility, rampant scams, and this ongoing cat-and-mouse game with regulators, is this a miracle solution or a dangerous mirage? As long as hardship drives this necessity, how long can a digital alternative truly sustain them? Think about that, and we'll catch you in the next explainer.